Good morning, 100 Club. I hope you're having an amazing Wednesday. And for those of you who were able to join us at family reunion last week, I'm sure that you're still, uh, recovering. Your brain is recovering from all that you learned last week. And the session that we're going to play today is one that was actually overlooked by a ton of people. And there is gold in this session, I tell you. And so before we go there, I wanted to recap a couple of things that I took away from Family Reunion. You see, Gary has been talking on stage over and over and over for 30 plus years now. On every stage he's had the opportunity to be on, about how important our database is and how we need to be nurturing and cultivating it constantly, because the moment that we don't nurture and cultivate our database, it becomes an option for someone else to take it away from us. And I want you to think about it like this. Have you ever been to Best Buy before, and you went to Best Buy? Maybe you went the week before Super Bowl Sunday, and your intention was that you were going to buy a huge flat screen TV. So you walk into Best Buy, and the first person who greets you at the door says, "Hey, is there anything that we can help you with today?" Most people's natural response is this: "No, I'm good. I'm just looking." But wait, hold on. You know in your head that you are there to buy a 95-inch flat screen TV. Well, that is the natural reaction that people have, people in your database, and even you have, to say, "Hey, I'm just looking." So who ends up getting the sale for that? Now, I know people at Best Buy aren't on commission, but imagine if they were. The person who's going to end up getting the sale for that 95-inch flat screen TV that you went into the store to buy, and the first person already asked you if there was anything they could help with, and you said, "No, I'm just looking." The person who's going to get that sale is the person who is standing closest to the TV. So there's two ways to overcome that. Number one, talk to your database consistently over and over and over again. Look, they know you, they like you, and they trust you. They're right here on your phone for a reason. Talk to them. Okay? The other one is having a value proposition that separates you from everyone else. There's a book out there by Seth Godin called The Purple Cow. It's not a long book, but it's powerful. And in this book, Seth talks about how he and his family, he may not talk about this in the book, but this is the story that he told us about what caused him to write the book. And so he and his family were driving, and they were driving over in Europe somewhere, and his boys were sitting in the back seat, and his boys were young. And all of a sudden, on this long 6-hour drive, they were just quiet. And if you have boys or you have kids, you know that on a 6-hour drive, if they just go silent in the back, something has probably happened that's either caught their attention or they've done something really bad to each other. And so Seth said at that moment, he looked back, and his boys were just looking at this perfect cow in the middle of a field. And that's where he came up with the idea of the purple cow. And so the premise of the book is, if you were to be driving down the interstate and there were cows all over the sides of the interstate, nothing would attract your attention because everyone does it, or every cow is pretty much the same. Yeah, they have some different spots. And in real estate, if you look at the greater Fort Worth, Dallas area, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of agents. So doing what you do isn't unique at all, because there's thousands of people that sell real estate. But going back to the cow situation here, if you were driving down Interstate 35 headed toward Austin, Texas, and you saw a purple cow in the middle of thousands of cows out there in the field, that purple cow would probably cause a pileup on Interstate 35, because it's so different. It's so unique. It causes you to have to stop and pay attention and look. And that's the premise of Seth Godin's book, is how do you become that one person in the middle of everyone else who does what you do that stands out greater than anyone else? And that is why I chose this video today that we're going to play from Family Reunion by Jason Abrams, because I think he does a good job at explaining how we can create an amazing value proposition. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to see what Jason Abrams has to say about a unique value proposition.
Hey everybody, I'm Jason Abrams, your Vice President of Industry, coming to you live from the Win-Win Studios in Austin, Texas.
And I am Annie Swit, your Vice President of Marketing, here with Jason in Austin.
That's me. So you're joining us today, and it's awesome that you are, because we are going to be talking about tripling your business and loving your life, and we're going to do all of that through providing a unique amount of value. See, at the end of the day, we are judged by the value that we provide. Right. You're going to find this both in your personal life and in your business life. Today, we're going to walk you through how we think, number one, about value when it comes to residential real estate, and then number two, how you can make sure that you've developed a unique value within your marketplace. And then number three, we're going to try to help you tell the story, because here's what we've learned. In the absence of true leadership, people listen to whoever is speaking loudest. And when it comes to your market and your brand, that person needs to be you. So let's kick this thing off, and let's go through just some basic ideas in understanding the consumer journey as it pertains to value. Come over to the board with me. I want to show you something. So I want to reset some of these ideas. And we know this drawing. You've all seen it a bunch of times. And the idea here is that this shows the consumer journey. And anyone that you know are living on this line when it comes to home ownership. This is the day up here that they buy or sell a house and all of their wildest real estate dreams come true. And on this day, let's just say for argument's sake, you make a commission check and it's, I don't know, $12,000. This right here, this is the very next day. This is to say that no one buys a home the day after they buy a home. It'd be awkward. And so down here on this day, we have $0. But every day after that, that consumer goes up in value as they get closer to the next time that they buy or sell a house. The distance between these 2 points in these United States is about 3 to 7 years in between purchases. But here's what's interesting. They usually don't just buy one household or two households during their entire life. They buy 3 or 4 or maybe an investment property over here. This is to say that all throughout their life, they're going to need you. And your focusing question is, well, how do I stay omnipresent throughout their entire journey? And this is what we're all coming to understand. See, there's a problem with this drawing, and you all know it well. Real estate agents tend to define the quality of the lead by the proximity to the top of one of these points. Meaning, when you get a lead right here, you say, oh my gosh, the leads are so great. But when you get a lead down here, you say the leads are no good. But here's what we know because of the drawing. Both of these people represent the exact same financial opportunity in the future. The only difference is when that opportunity begins. Up to this point, you all know this drawing really well. I get that. What I want to do today is think about this a touch differently. So here's what we got. Let's pretend that this is when they transact. That means right here to here, this area of the line, you have to provide one set of value. But the truth is, on this area, you have to provide a different type of value. And so let's call this area number 1, and let's call this area number 2, because here's what I believe. I believe that if you don't provide value during this time, you don't get to provide value for enough people during this time. And I think you all know exactly what I mean. This is to say that we build relationships here and then we provide service when they get here. And so your next question, I'm way ahead of you, is going to be, well, so how do I provide value within those two areas? And I'm so glad you asked. There's an infinite number of ideas, but I would submit to you that they fit into 3 different buckets. Number 1 is emotion. This is to say that throughout both of these places, people are going to have to feel different levels of emotion. Now, the emotions they feel here might be different than the emotions feel here, but take my word for it, it's emotion nonetheless. Number 2, data. You can add value by giving them data throughout this part of living in a home, and they definitely need data when they get to that point of living in a home. And the last one is service. Think about this for a second. The service that you might provide here might vary differently than the service you provide here. You're not listing and showing homes here, but you might be recommending painters. You might be recommending landscaping people. You might be dropping off leaf bags in the fall. You might be doing a whole bunch of different services here. So now we understand there's three things, right? There's going to be this emotion, there's going to be this data, and there's going to be these services. That's it. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that if you're sitting at home right now, then you may be having an insight, which, by the way, didn't come from us. That would be called an outsight. The insight that I think you're having is you look up and realize that everyone in your life that's supposed to be in fiduciary relationship only has the same three buckets. And by the way, that means that all real estate agents only have the same three buckets. What we need to do now is analyze how you've been using them. So step number one, we'd like you to take an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. We need you to get 3 of them. On one of them, we want you to write emotion. On one of them, we want you to write data. And on one of them, we want you to write service. Then we'd like you to start listing all of the ways that you're communicating that value to your consumer now within both of those different areas. Area number 1 being in between transactions, and area number 2 being when they're ready to transact. So if you were to say to me, Jason, when it comes to data, in area as they're in between transactions, what would some of the things you'd have on your list? I'd have the monthly neighborhood nurture. I'd be wanting to send hyperlocal real estate information on a monthly basis. I might even be doing that twice a month. I might have things like the neighborhood snapshot. I might have things like individual landing pages. These are just technical things that I might be doing. On the same token, I might be doing an annual review where I'm sending it to their house, some sort of glossy magazine about what's happening. I might be providing them data about me. I might be saying, hey, these are all the records that I broke this year and I won best looking realtor. Again.
Always.
Right?
Every year.
These would be the kind of things that I'd be sharing. This is the data that they need. If you said services, I might be saying, this is my service provider list. Now, if you said to me, Jason, how are you using data when they're in transaction? I love that. I might be providing a CMA. I might be providing police reports for the area. I might be providing school rankings. I can go on with all the data that I think they need in that set. The key here is to truly understand how you're going to win with emotion, how you're going to win with data, and how you're going to win with services, both in between the transaction and during it. And once you get there, then you really get to define your proposition.
Right. So one of the exercises that we like to go through here is actually out of a book called Positioning, or the 22 Immutable Laws of Real Estate. And it's one of the books that Gary Keller always insists that anybody is even going to talk about marketing reads. And we won't go through every one of the laws, but if we're going to decide what is our unique value proposition and really what is our positioning statement as real estate agents, we need to acknowledge that we're not the only one where we are. So the first law of marketing is actually that there's the law of leadership. If you can be first, awesome. The first is usually the one who's going to win. Most of us aren't the first real estate agent in our area, though. So we have to acknowledge we're not going to be first. Then what can we do? We should be first in a category, which often means making sure that we are owning a category. So we hear a lot about, Gary says, start small. What that could mean for some of us who are just getting into the business is own a street. Own a neighborhood, that neighborhood nurture that Jason talked about earlier. Let's make sure that we're owning a category, and we're going to invent that category. That could be first-time home buyers. That could be, like I said, a neighborhood. Once you nail that, you can start to expand and your world can get bigger. However, owning that really sets a word in the mind of the consumers that are going to be attracted to you, and they know who to come to when they're looking for that one street. You're going to nail that. Then, Jason?
Well, it's at this moment in time when you can really let your creativity run absolutely rampant. And we've seen some amazing examples of this. If you live in an area where the leaves fall off trees in the fall and you're not delivering leaf bags that are custom made with your face on them, then you don't know what you're missing when you drive down the street and see 391 Jasons.
Right, and this is where that would be exciting. What we also see people doing is they're doing Facebook groups for specific neighborhoods. This is when you really get involved in making sure that when people think of real estate in that category, which is often a neighborhood or a group of people, that they're thinking about you. So the next part of that exercise in my mind is also to know who else is on the ladder. Every consumer is able to remember 1, 2, maybe 3 things. So if I were to ask Jason, hey, we just sat down to dinner together, what would you like to drink?
Like a sparkling water?
Okay, well, we don't have that. What else would you like?
Like a Diet Coke?
Yep, we don't have that. What else would you like?
I'll just have regular water.
Right. So at some point, Jason doesn't care anymore, or he doesn't have a list of options beyond sparkling water, if we're being honest. However, we need to think about that in our businesses, that consumers can only remember, our clients can only remember so many, and we need to make sure that we're the first when they're thinking about us. So in order to do that, we need to acknowledge that there are other people on that ladder, and how we differentiate ourselves among that ladder is really, really important. And you can't do that without doing your market research. Make sure you understand who owns the neighborhood you're going after right now and what are they saying. So where this becomes important is your unique value proposition should be unique. We can't say the exact same thing that the person who already owns that neighborhood or already owns that mom group is saying. So are you going to be the leaf bag guy? Are you going to be the person who has the moving truck? Are you going to be the person who has the most up-to-date data in your neighborhood that's keeping people informed? And we can't do that unless we know what else is happening.
The interesting thing around this is the data is pretty clear. You don't need to be best in show across 10 different verticals.
Right.
You need to do one thing that you get known for really well,
right,
especially in a highly considered field. Because we looked up and we said, well, what are the most highly considered consumer purchases? And if you were to go to our friends at Facebook or our friends at Google, they would all tell you their VP of industry pays attention to automobile sales and home sales. Those things tend to live together. When you think about really fancy cars and the dealerships that sell them, it's really rare that you say that car is the best in everything.
Everything, right.
You don't do that. And you don't have to do that in the real estate industry either. Meaning your unique value at the end of the day is going to be tied to your personal relationship with the consumer. What Annie is telling you is that relationship needs to be moored to something other than just you, or you're simply growing your friends list, not your constituents.
Right, and we can think about that. To use your car example, when I say Volvo, what word do you think of?
Safe.
Right. That didn't just happen. That's because they focused on that message, and every consumer thinks about that. When they hear the word car safety, they think about Volvo. So are you thinking about your business the same way? And do you know when entering in, does somebody already own that word? And then the last is sacrifice. To Jason's point, we can't be all things to all people, because when we try to be that, or when we try to use every message to every person, the message gets lost. So are we willing to sacrifice to everyone, being the perfect realtor to everybody, in order to make sure that we're the perfect realtor to the ones that we are targeting? And the good news is, others will come along for the journey as a result of seeing what amazing service you're providing to your target group. So that would be the one thing that I think is the most tempting for us, is we want our product to be applicable to everybody, and everybody should want to use me. And the truth of the matter is, when we do that, we make nobody happy, or we're not appealing to that one group. So let's accept the fact that when Jason is an amazing agent in Austin and he has enough clients, that's when we start to see referrals, and they might not be in his target market, but my friend said he's great, and so I'm going to use him. And we have to sacrifice a little bit of breadth in order to do that.
Absolutely. So this brings us to our next concept. So just to recap here, what we've done, we've defined how we're going to think about this value. And the key to this was that we broke it into these two very important yet unique spots: before and in between transactions, and then during transactions. We then went through and we talked about how you can move the needle on this. And again, this is going to be driven through emotion, through data, or through service. Then we came together and we understood the law of leadership within this, starting small, the law of category, how to build that ladder, and then we just spoke around sacrifice. Now, if you're anything like the average person, you're looking up and saying, wow, that was a lot in 15 minutes. Help me better understand this and make it really digestible. Now I'm going to go back to the board to do just that. So when we come back, we know that the consumer is on this journey, but what does it actually look like and feel like when you're in it? Well, up to this point, real estate agents have tended to think about it more like a funnel. This is to say, we do things for everybody, and then something touches their heart, and then over time, they tend to fall through, and this is what's classic sales funnel for us. This is really sort of a 1998 way of thinking about it, back when that song End of the Road was on. But what we have to do is evolve a little bit. And so the way that we're starting to think about it now is what we call the infinity loop. This is to say that the consumer is going to be yours, not just today, not just tomorrow, but forever. And during that life journey, they're going to need a whole bunch of different services. Your value is going to run in direct relation to the number of services that they're willing to let you introduce them to. So within our vertical, let's just spitball some of these together. You know full well that in order to buy a house, most of your people are going to need to get a mortgage. Then you're going to have some people that need to get title. Then you're going to have some people that need to move. Then you're going to have some people that want to renovate. And the list goes on and on. You can continue to add circles throughout the infinity group. And right here, this one might be buy a home. And this one might be sell a home. But let me ask you this. If the only place that you're listening for the consumer or you're showing their value is in this circle and this circle, do you think that you are missing the vast majority of consumers at some point during their journey? Naturally, friends, the answer is going to be yes. Here's what we know. We know that the residential real estate consumer wants very few things, and it's relatively simple. Number one, they want to look at less houses physically, but more of the right ones. This makes sense. Number two, they don't necessarily want a realtor omnipresent, but they want a real estate agent on demand who adds value prior to them demanding it. This is what's happening in every trend right now. We want things to be there when we want them there. Not after we wanted them there, not before we wanted them there, but we want people at the right place and the right time more often. Number three, they want a seamless transaction that they understand without a delineated experience between searching and transacting. They want those things to come together. And number four, they want to have an experience that's smarter, that's simpler, and that's more human. And most importantly, Annie, they want a real estate agent standing side by side with them in the center of the transaction, helping them live this dream. This speaks directly to the value that you're either going to deliver or wish you had. Let us never forget that our compensation is made up of a few very important things. Number one, how the need for your service manifests itself. And in our industry, the good news is people need housing. Number two, how good you are at providing the service that you do. That's a decision that you get to make every day when you wake up. Number three, the difficulty in replacing you. And if you provide a ridiculous level of service, it's really hard to replace you. And then number four, the number of people which allow you to serve them. Said differently, that's lead generation. So now you look up and you say, okay, I get it. And this is all feeling really good to me. How do I go about learning how Keller Williams can help power my value presentation? Because we like to think of it like we're the magic behind the magician. And you're the magicians. Annie, what would you tell everyone to do?
I'd start with my market center.
Yeah.
I would start with my team leader and go to my market center tech trainer and dig into command, because the beauty of command is that a lot of this is sitting in there just waiting to be deployed. I also think about smart plans that we have. It's not just the magic of Keller Williams and the product managers here, but it's your fellow agents who are nailing it in their local areas, putting smart plans into command where you can go and see how the best of the best are marketing, how they're running their businesses. So I'd start there.
Yeah, Gary always tells us, and Josh teaches it as well, that it's often about who and not necessarily how. Our ecosystem is really unique in comparison to almost every other brokerage on the planet, and it's possible, and I just want to enter this into the lexicon, that maybe we've taken one of our most powerful parts for granted. And that's in the humans that help drive this amazing ecosystem. You see, right now you have operating principals, you have team leaders, you have market center tech trainers, you have regional tech trainers, you have regional directives, you have 350 plus humans here at KWRI, plus another 350 at any given time that are touching your technology. You have almost 1,000 people at Keller Mortgage, and you have scores of others that have made an absolute commitment to your success. The question: have you set up your consulting conversation with any of those people? Not to hear about Keller Williams, you've already done that, but to hear and better understand how Keller Williams can support you in getting to where you want to go. Let us never forget the dream, which was you're here because you believe that we can help you get where you want to go faster with us than without us. The minute that that dream stops being reality for you is the minute we have failed. We're asking for your partnership. At the conclusion of this, you have two choices. You can close this laptop, and every moment that you get further away from this masterclass, these words will ring hollow. Or right now, you can open up another window and open up an email. And you can reach out to any of the people that I mentioned before, and don't just ask, but demand that sometime over the next 30 days, you sit down and you do a business consultative discussion where you say, this is where I am, this is where I want to go. Let's identify the steps in the middle, and then let's walk down that road together. That's kind of the nature of the relationship that we have here at KWRI.
For sure. That's why we're here.
All right, you guys, any final thoughts?
I think we've covered it, actually.
I think we covered it too. On behalf of everybody here, and Gary and Josh and Ellen and all of our partners, I just want you all to know, and I think you'll echo this with me, we are so grateful
Absolutely.
that you have made the time to come to Family Reunion. We really hope that you enjoyed it, and be really clear, because we are, that the power of Keller Williams isn't what happens in the Win-Win Studio. It's your relationship with your customers, and it's the greatest honor we can have to be in business with you. So, all right, KW, enjoy the rest of Family Reunion.
Thanks for letting us talk to you.